Hey y'all, today we've got Brendan Wright on the show. Brendan's project is Tiberius. Tiberius are based in Allston, Brighton, near Boston, and they are a big part of the DIY scene there, and Brendan's mixtape is all about the Boston DIY scene, so that is very cool. We also talked a bit about Tiberius's album Troubadour. We talked about the songwriting process, we talked about the mixing process, we really got in the weeds on all of that, and then at the end we had a quick lightning round called the Showdown, where Brendan talked about some important, unique, even bad shows that they have played. As always, if you want to support, you can do so at tapeclub.substack.com. All right, enjoy my interview with Brendan. Happy New Year, everybody. We got Brendan Wright from Tiberius here. Wow, 2026 off to a flying start, Brendan. I gotta say, we're recording this early, so hopefully nothing like crazy bad happens and this doesn't age poorly. Brendan, thank you for coming on the show. Happy to have you here.
Very happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
So I want to jump right into the album. It's called Troubadour. It's been out now for a few months, right? Something like that.
Like a month and a half or so, I guess.
You wrote this great essay for Atwood Magazine, like a making of essay. So I kind of want to dive into that. Listeners, viewers, I'll put a link to that essay in the show notes so you can follow along if you want. But I do want to kind of start it at the end. You wrote, "To me, Troubadour is a collection of stories from someone who lived where I lived years ago. It's not about the person I am now." And it really seems like it's, from the essay, it's a very personal album. There's a lot going on there. I think it's cool that it is a snapshot in time. So I want to know, can you tell me a little bit about how you started writing and recording music, even pre-Tiberius? Because, obviously, like you said, the past album isn't who you are now, but where did you come from?
Well, let's see. I started playing guitar when I was 13. After my dad I played a lot of Guitar Hero as a kid. My dad made some snarky dad jokes, be like, "Oh man, if you practiced a real instrument as much as you play that thing, then who knows where you could be." And so eventually I asked for a guitar, and pretty soon after I got that, I started trying to write songs. Just really enjoyed getting into like the Beatles and Nirvana and kind of some of those like really big melodic songwriters, and I think it was just a way for me to express myself and my teen angst at the time, and that angst, I guess has continued to grow through my life in various ways and has evolved into different things, but songwriting has kind of just been a tool that I've used since then. So I had a band in high school. A couple of good friends of mine, we kind of learned our instruments together and had a good old garage band and played in Vermont where I grew up. And then when I went to college, started doing more of the solo endeavor stuff and making music on my computer because I didn't quite have that network yet. And then that's kind of how the Tiberius music started coming to be. I started being a little more vulnerable because there was no one listening, and then I guess it went from there.
Yeah, that makes sense. You were able to like start singing right off the top of your head without anyone kind of judging it, and then you'd find all these things. At least that's what I assume. That's kind of how it was for me. It's like, I want to say this is crazy because I've never met anyone else who got into making music through Guitar Hero. I'm sure there's tons of us, but that is how it was for me too. I used to have my friend give me, before I could drive, obviously, I had my friend give me rides to Best Buy so I could just play the demo because I loved playing that game so much. And eventually I was like trying to figure out I was like, there's got to be a way to like make your own songs on Guitar Hero. And then finally I was like, why don't I just start making my own songs? But it is crazy that you have also gone through that. That is not something I was expecting, to be honest. So you could probably see my eyes lit up when you said Guitar Hero. I was like, oh shit, Guitar Hero.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I think anyone who has gone for the Guitar Hero to Guitar Pipeline knows that Guitar Hero is like, I was like learning songs on the guitar and then would go back and try to learn them in Guitar Hero and be like, these are crazy hard compared to what they actually are in like real life.
Yeah,
so.
You'd be like playing Buckethead on expert, and then you'd try to play like I don't know, some sort of 3-chord tune and be like, I don't know, we're not getting this, guys. It's not happening.
Yeah.
I want to ask you about those early recordings. So you started kind of making stuff, like you said, on your laptop or just kind of on your own because you didn't have that network. And in that essay, you wrote that a lot of the early work was, I quote, borderline unlistenable. I think that's probably a bit hyperbolic, but what is your relationship like with your past work? Do you ever listen to it and enjoy it, or just leave it up like an artifact?
You know, I think it's funny because I think that when I was making all those songs, I was like learning how to record, and a lot of it was like my learning, quote unquote, like was just a lot of like me just fooling around and GarageBand and Logic at the time, and I wasn't really like looking up stuff, how to do stuff. I just was kind of trying to be like, this kind of sounds good. So a lot of it sounds like crazy, in my opinion, or very like Logic, GarageBand core. And if you've ever made stuff there, I think you can kind of get a sound. You can kind of get a sound in your head of what that would be like. But when I listen back to it now, it's really interesting because I spent so much time making those songs that like I'm kind of like transported back to like different parts of when I was in college, and it's kind of like a nostalgia trip for me. So sometimes, and not often, but like every couple of years I'll like put on one of the records I made, and it's like, whoa, I start to remember things I had forgotten about. I don't know, different buildings on campus where I was making it in, or the dining hall, or whatever it be. But yeah, I guess like I feel like they were very extreme in the sense that I was kind of just I was singing about anything that was kind of coming to mind. It was trying to be more emotional, confessional. I think I took that a bit in like an extreme degree, trying to play with like the idea of like creating a character and like kind of speaking from the perspective of like the worst parts of me at times. I was not a very self-loving person in those days, but you know, I think over time, like I learned how to like record more properly and mix more properly. I started kind of like, I think, reeling back the confessional, emotional parts of it to be like more effective, I think, as songs. So I think some things are just better left as journal entries, at least in my opinion, my personal work.
Yeah, so it seems like you've kind of learned both on the production end and on the songwriting end. Like you've grown and known when to hit the gas sort of and when to like pull back a little bit. I think going back to early stuff, it's always interesting in any craft. If you look at some of your early stuff, you'll cringe a bit, but you'll also be like, oh damn, that was creative and I didn't even know it. You know what I mean? Like I somehow hit this, totally. Like for my early stuff, I used to record into cause you know, I do a lot of filmmaking. I had a shotgun mic, a great shotgun mic at the time, but that's the only mic I had. And so I recorded all my vocals into a shotgun mic with a dead cat on it, like a big muffled thing with my mouth right up on the mic. And like, listening back to those things, you know, and this is with roommates, right? So you're afraid to sing, you're going to whisper real close into it. Yeah. And then you go back and you're like, damn, I like double tracked these weird whispery things. And it kind of sounds better than what the fuck I'm doing now. But like, yeah, it's cool to operate from that place of a beginner's mind or whatever, you know, I think it's useful.
Yeah. I go back and I'm like, man, I got to get out of my head a little bit. Like it's fun to just not know what to do. And I think as I've gotten older, I've like tried to look for more tools that I'm not as familiar with to kind of get that experience again, or like detuning my guitar on like a weird tuning, or now I'm starting to, you know, get into different kinds of gear. I guess I knew that would happen eventually. I'm more of like I think I'm like a minimalist, but I'm a hoarder at the same time. So now I have a bunch of stuff that I've just kind of acquired over time, and it's fun to see kind of like what you can do.
Yeah, you combine it with, you know, some learned skills, and you can maybe get some totally crazy sounds out of it. I want to jump ahead in my questions a little bit to the production part of it, because this kind of relates. So you mentioned in that same essay leaning on Nate Scaringi. Sorry, Nate, didn't mean to mispronounce you. Leaning on Nate for mixing help. How had you been approaching mixing up until then, and what were some things that you learned from Nate that, stuck with you, that you took away?
Sure. Yeah. I guess over time, I think I've just gotten better at like balancing mixes and where things should fit. And like, Nate, it's funny when Nate, in the record that I made before Troubadour, Fish in a Pond, Nate had kind of given me some advice and perspective, and it was cool because they're a really good friend of mine and a very talented mix engineer and production person, and it was cool. I was bringing them mixes, and they had kind of they had offered to do some mixes, and I think at that point, and you probably, I don't know if you mix your own stuff or not, but there's a point where you're like, it just sounds a certain way and you're like, don't want anyone to touch it. You're like too far down the rabbit hole. So I was like, I think I want some advice on how to like fix this, but then the next thing I do, we should do something from scratch. And so they were very good at just kind of like listening to how I thought about music. And I think about mixes a lot in terms of like space and perspective, and like kind of like there's like this like limited canvas you have, and like in order to like make things bigger, you need to make things smaller because you can't go off the page.
That's a really great way to put it. I've never heard it put that way.
Yeah. I was kind of like, and I was like, do you ever think about it like that? And Nate's like, yeah, like, or at least I think. I don't want to put words in their mouth. I think we talked about that, and that we'd kind of like that, and they were helping me kind of like take my like how I think mixing should be, and they were like giving me some more functional tools on how to actually achieve some of those things. So with this release, it was nice because I was doing a lot of my own, and they were the ones who recorded and engineered the drums. We recorded that in a recording space in Boston called The Record Co. And so we had this really nice sounding drum kit to kind of layer everything else on at home. So it was already like I was starting from a place of like, here's your training wheels, I guess, and then was able to kind of record and fit things to that. But they were really helpful. I think like it was just great to get like they helped me, showed me some tricks on how to like bus certain compression and like what things kind of like I think anyone can be like this kind of help too, but just like listening and being like, oh, like these guitars, like I can't really hear this. You could like just like brighten this up or use this kind of like vintage EQ. Just kind of get like somebody else on it.
Yeah, exactly. It's interesting to me to hear that like the difference in talking about music with people who you're writing with versus talking about the mix. Those are like just completely different mindsets. It's almost like, to me, I've always thought of mixing as like, okay, give the song to somebody. I don't know who it is. Just give it to somebody. They sit there. They're in the room. They're mixing. They're doing the thing, and then they give it to you, and you see how does it sound. So to go back and forth and give mix notes is always, for people who don't like play, I'm sure their minds would be blown at how many different mixes people will go through. I heard that. I mean, it's obviously a very different case, but I heard that like U2 have gone through like 70 or 80 versions of a song before, and it's just like, at what point is it too much? That's a little wild. Yeah. I don't know if we need to be doing all that. For me, it's just like turn it up or turn it down. I don't know.
That's not, honestly, the 80 mixes sounds kind of like how I can be at times, just like really particular.
How do you tell the difference at that point? Like there's got to be ear fatigue, and like, do you maybe to get to a point where you're like, this sounds great, and then you listen to it on a certain type of speaker, like a phone speaker or your headphones or in a car, and go, shit, it actually doesn't sound good here? Or like, yeah, or are they more aesthetic choices where you get caught up?
I think it's probably a mix of both. I definitely have had, and I definitely have the experience often of like, this sounds really good, and then you get in the car and you're like, damn. Or you try to play like a mix that you really like next to it, and it just sounds completely different or totally not what you're going for.
I I always just play it through headphones. It's so whack, and like I know that people would kill me for saying that, but like I feel like everyone listens to music in headphones these days. Maybe I'm just like being a little bit like city pilled because I feel like most people have cars, but I'm thinking like, I don't know. My brain is stuck in New York. I don't even live there anymore, but it's like stuck there, and I'm just like, everyone listens on headphones. Probably not true.
Well, I think I listen to music a lot in headphones and in my car, and those are the two places I listen to music. And well, I guess on a stereo too, occasionally at home, but it's not the two default, or like kind of like just me and the mix. And
do you have like sorry to cut you off, but do you have like a test where like, because for me, like my test when I've got like a song I'm pumped on, I'll like go for a walk down, like there's like a coffee shop that's like a certain amount away where I know like I'll have enough time to finish the whole song, like maybe twice if I go there. So I just like put that on and start walking, and as I'm doing it, I'll find what's wrong or where I need to switch stuff. You have anything like that in your routine?
Yeah, I think either going for a quick drive, or I'm a big runner, so I like to run. So sometimes like if I'm like on a jog or something, because I get very stuck in my own world with these things, and I'm not really somebody who, like, once something's done, I don't really like listen to my work after it's done. It's just kind of like, sometimes just be like, oh, it's cool to celebrate, but to me it's like I kind of like live in it so long. I'm like listening to it all the time when I'm working on it, and like listening to it like on drives to work, or like around the corner, or going for walks or going for runs. And so it's like I kind of like live and breathe those songs until they're done, and then I'm like, okay, I'm ready to not listen to this anymore.
Yeah, and that probably, I don't know, I can't speak for you here, but for me, that certainly makes like like with my last album, it makes the promo process so annoying, because like you've been in this song, this album, whatever, for a year more, and then it comes out and it's like, no, but hit the gas for 6 more months and like keep listening and talking about it. It's like, I don't want to. I'm on to the next. I don't want to keep doing it. I want to ask you a question that's more about kind of like the songwriting process. So you mentioned that Moab is, first of all, Moab, standout track for me. I love that track. But Moab, the writing process for it, you said you basically, some roommates I think had moved out and you kind of just wrote it in an empty kitchen. Tell the listeners a little bit about the process for that, the writing of that song.
Yeah, I was out of town for a trip over the summer a few years ago, and it was weird. It was I came home, and two of my it's on Boston. It's very like September 1st is like the big turnaround, and I was gone for most of July. And when I came back at the end of July, two of my roommates had moved out early. Actually, three of my roommates had moved out early, and it just like in the time I was gone, like stuff had happened. They'd found a place they'd left, and so it was really disorienting. They was like kind of like left and came home, and just this big empty house. And I live in a house with 6 people, so, or with 5, or there's 6 of us, so the whole like bottom half of the house was empty. So it was kind of like all this like cavernous, and there was no one home. And I had some kind of like ideas for this song that didn't really have a chance to work out. So I just kind of like sat in the kitchen and just sang. And I don't know, something about like, it's kind of like being in a reverb tank. It was cool.
So when you're sitting there writing this tune, are you just kind of, do you start with the lyrics? Do you have like chords? Do you just kind of fiddle around until you get somewhere? Or like, are you writing the music? Are you writing the melodies? Are you writing the words? Are you doing them all at the same time? What's your process like?
At the time I was really, and I'm still really attached. I have this thick nylon style, like student classical guitar, and I had gotten it that year, and I was just kind of, it was like my best bud. And I was playing a lot of just playing chords and trying to sing melodies over them. And usually, like, I think like 80%, 90% of the songs that at least on the last record and kind of recently, it's just been like play some stuff on the guitar, kind of sing some stuff, and then whatever comes out. And then I usually have like a running notes of different things I'm thinking about or potential lyrics, and I kind of just start trying to sing with those and then make modifications, and then before you know it, you got a little song.
It comes together. Do you do like a mumble track when you're recording stuff, or do you usually come in with like the song done?
No, it's usually like a lot of that kind of stuff. But there's phrases in there, or like, or the beginning of things, and a lot of time I try to improv like melody ideas and like lyrics. Like sometimes I read Rick Rubin's book that year, The Creative Act, and there was a lot of really great pieces in there. But there was this one piece that really stuck with me that was like, just start, and like you never know what's going to come out of your mouth. You'll be really surprised. And since then, I've noticed that. Like I just try to like sing, and sometimes like if I have a phrase or something and I like sing it, and like I just try to keep going and see if anything else comes out that's cool. And maybe it's like won't be like the lyrics, but maybe like I really like the way that this like I've used this like rhythmic pattern, or like I liked how this felt singing, and kind of go from there.
Yeah, usually for me, I'll just like take a section I'm working on, loop it, and just like keep mumbling, and slowly it's like you're chipping away at it, and the thing reveals itself. Then you step back and you're like, I don't know, we gotta go again.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, so I want to, last question before we go to the break. Is the next album, the next project, whatever, bubbling up already? Are you already making progress on it? Or are you sort of like, Troubadour is out the door, I need to chill, let this thing settle for a little bit?
I think it's half and half. I think I'm always like working on stuff. I think I have a bunch of like song bones, or like beginnings of things, and I think I was trying to work on a lot of it because there was a real big break between the time that like we'd finished working on the record and the time we put it out, like probably like about a year. But we were playing a lot of like playing a lot of shows and traveling and kind of trying to figure out the rollout process and all that. And I think, you said it yourself, like it can be an exhausting process to be like having this thing and then having to push it out and promote it. And it hasn't been exhausting, but it has definitely been like, it's been a focus recently. So I think I have all of this stuff, and I'm excited to kind of move from the promotional aspect to reel it back a little bit, and then kind of get back into the creative chair. But I'm also like, there's no rush to put anything else out. We'll figure out something.
I would love it if like when it's done, it can just be out right away. But unfortunately, you gotta like hold on to it. I was talking to a friend the other day who he had just put something out, and I was like, man, I really like that. Like that was really cool. Like, how that seems like it was something recent, and you just kind of made it real quick. He's like, no, I made that 3 years ago. I was like,
yeah,
what the hell? You made it 3 years ago. So it's a process. It's a process. It takes time. And especially if you want to do it right, if you want to roll it out the right way. I feel like for Troubadour, your rollout process was like awesome, and it got a lot of love across different like college radio and stuff. And, I think it was really well done.
Well, it's very kind of you to say. That's all Jamie and Audio Antihero doing so much work on that end to, get me connected with different folks like yourself and a bunch of folks. And
yeah, shout out Jamie.
Yeah, they're really the best. And
True.
I will not say enough nice things about Jamie.
We're gonna get Jamie on the show one day. We'll see.
I hope so.
They're ducking my calls. Let's do this. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to get into your mixtape, and then we'll get into a little game after that, but mixtape's coming up. All right, we're back with the mixtape, and Brendan, you picked 6 songs here from Allston Bands, I think is what it is, right? So tell me a little bit about, I guess that is the theme, but just give me a little bit more on that. Like, what made you want to focus specifically on like this scene here?
I think that whenever I get the opportunity to talk about my pals and my friends' bands, I'll always jump to it. I think it's kind of my default. Like if I have, I have so much love for the Boston scene. And I think it gets generally underrepresented in I think when people talk about scenes, and I know like Boston's had its bands that's come out of here, but there's like such a good active, thriving DIY scene here.
I mean, when I think of Boston,
yeah.
I think of the DIY scene. That like is just the first one. I think that they go hand in hand. They're simultaneous things to me. I don't know. They even from way back when. Like I randomly was in Chicago a few months ago. Just met up with some friends. We were hanging out. Went to some like random bar, and somehow the bartender and I started talking about DIY Boston stuff, and I was like, oh man, I don't know, you probably haven't heard of them, but there's like this small ass band from many years ago called Bent Shapes. And he was like, oh dude, I know them or whatever. And I was like, okay, that's crazy. Like this band,
rad.
I don't know anything I don't know if you know anything about them. I imagine a lot of people don't know them, but it's really cool that something as small as like the DIY scene there could be that strong and bring people together. It's very cool.
Yeah, I think it's a special place, and I think when you find it, it's great.
Let's start with the first song here that you have. It's by a band called Winkler, and the song is called Bazooka Baby. So tell me a bit about why you picked this one, or a little bit about Winkler.
Winkler is project of Justin Schaefer's, Christian Schmidt, Maddie Simpson, and
you put
Alex from Winkler,
okay.
and Alex of Winkler / Dino Gala, and they've had a couple of different bass players as well. My current bass player of Winkler is actually my roommate, Danny Edlin. But it's funny. Like I'm sure you probably had this experience. Like people for years, and you're like, oh, that's just this person from this band. That's their name. I'm Brendan from Tiberius. That's what it is.
What? I feel like you put yourself in a tough spot now, because for the next 5 after this, you're gonna have to rattle off.
I made my piece. It's fine. I don't know everyone's last name.
So tell me a bit about how you first, I guess, heard of them. Did you get to play a show with them, maybe, or something like that?
Yeah, I moved to Boston, and I moved to Boston right before the pandemic happened, and I actually my first kind of interaction with the Boston music scene was all online, which was crazy just to think back to. But I remember I was just trying to find Boston musicians when everything was shut down, and I came across a Winkler track, and I was like, oh, this is really cool. And then it wasn't until a few years later that I actually met, I think I met Justin at a show. And there's a theme throughout these tracks that there's a lot of overlapping members and people in different projects. So I think I just kind of gradually came across some of the Winkler crew, and they've always been like incredibly kind and warm, and I think their music is very like it's not like it's childlike in a way where it just feels like anyone can appreciate it. And I think young people can kind of like the Beatles in a way, like everyone can appreciate the Beatles, no matter how old you are. And they've kind of got like a 60s revivalist kind of sound, but they're the kind of band that you'll see and you're like, how can you not have a great time seeing Winkler? Like they're just an absolute joy.
Yeah, I think you nailed it with the, this is, again, it sounds actually so ridiculous, but you nailed it with the Beatles comparison. And once you hear the song, you will understand. But yeah, Bazooka Baby, this is my standout track off of this mixtape that you made here. Let's listen to a little bit of it. Here's Bazooka Baby by Winkler. Next up, we've got Dry Rot by Gollylagging. I love the name. I accidentally wrote lollygagging. I'm sure everyone does. Tell me a bit about Gollylagging.
Similarly, met Gollylagging through the DIY scene here. They're good. They've become good friends. I think that they're kind of like started more as like a emo band in Boston. I don't think that they necessarily love that label. I think a lot of people kind of group them as like, oh, they're just like an emo band, but they're a really good band, and they do a lot of different things. And I think that this EP that they came out with, I guess it was, well, by the time this airs, it'll be like a year and a half ago or so. But it was just a collection of 6 songs, and Dry Rot was one of those songs when I first heard it. I was like, this is like the next step for these guys. And it's one of my favorite Gollylagging tunes. We actually did the Allston DIY scene did an Allston covers Allston tape. And so we all kind of traded songs to do, and Tiberius covered this Gollylagging track, and Gollylagging covered one of our tracks called Hypoxia. And but it was just like really fun to learn and dig into. But they're just such a cool band. They get in, they do their thing so efficiently, and they just write like, it's like there's no fat on the song. It's like, it's just like hit like, I don't know, go in, hit it, get out. And
when you covered this song, did you just sort of parse through it yourself and like kind of figure out your own arrangements and just figure out the chords, or did you just like text them and be like, yo, send me the chords?
I actually didn't ask them to send us the chords for this one. I did ask them to send me the lyrics, though. I had no idea what Jake was singing for most of the song. So that was good. And I think I sent Jake the chords to our song. So it was a good trade. But one of the reasons why we picked Gollylagging is not only are they good friends, but we have a pedal steel player in our band, and I just really wanted to put steel on a Gollylagging song. I thought that would be really cool.
That's awesome. I'm glad that you were able to figure the chords out, because I feel like that's kind of embarrassing when like you ask for them and then they're like, it's just like A minor and E, and you're like, fuck, my bad. All right, let's listen to a little bit of it. Here's Dry Rot by Gollylagging. Next up, we've got Clifford with the song Inkblot. So in that essay I was referencing in the first chunk of this, you mentioned Clifford. So there's some sort of relationship between Clifford and Tiberius. Tell me a bit about that.
Yeah, Clifford and Tiberius both came out of Skidmore College. So we both are, a lot of members of Clifford and Tiberius went there. And we weren't like super close there. Just kind of like knew of each other really, despite being a small school. And then when I moved to Boston, I got tight with Ben, the drummer, and then Ben was pretty involved with Clifford and Miles from Clifford, and they would hang out at our house. I lived with Ben for a while, and they'd hang out at our house. And then also Ben was also the drummer for Tiberius for a while. Ben was the drummer for Troubadour, the whole record. So we share drummers in that sense.
Is Skidmore in? It's not in Boston, I'm gathering from how you said it. Where is it?
No, it's in upstate New York, in Saratoga Springs.
Wow. Okay, so that's a world away. So it just so happened that everyone kind of, or multiple people moved to Boston. You think the music scene was like a driving factor there, or?
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of people from Skidmore either come from Boston, New York, or LA, and then they move back to the one of those places afterwards. So there's a nice pocket of Boston Skidmore people here, and we just kind of ended up being that one post college, and then just through the years have maintained a good relationship with those guys. And Nate Cringing, who did the drums, is the bass player for Clifford. Danny, the bass player of Winkler, is the guitar player for Clifford. Ben was the drummer.
Clifford is the super group.
Yeah, they're one of them.
Buried the lead. Clifford's the super group. Let me ask, are Winkler, Gollylagging, and Clifford, they're all still active bands, right?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So people can go and see them, and they can even hear them right now. Here's Inkblot by Clifford. Next up, Paper Lady with the song Joe Modern. Tell me a bit about this tune.
This one made my jaw drop when I saw it for the first time. Big fans of Paper Lady from a long time. I've included them in this list of Allston Brighton bands because to me they'll forever be an Allston Brighton band. They did relocate to New York in September, but they're back all the time, and they're good pals and like amazing musicians. But
Is there a Boston New York pipeline? How does that work? Is there a contentious relationship? Is it sort of like if you go from Boston to New York, you're like, dude, go fuck yourself? Or is it yeah, tell me, or am I I think this is what I assume, but you tell me if I'm wrong.
no, I mean I think that there's a jokingly contentious relationship with it, but I think that a lot of people who kind of start doing music in Boston at a certain point, if they want to have like a real kind of like big professional music career or have aspirations for something like that in the industry, they'll end up going to New York or Nashville or LA or one of those industry cities, because Boston has an amazing DIY scene, but the infrastructure for industry stuff here doesn't really exist. So a lot of people go to New York. I definitely have had my fair of complicated relationships with New York over the years. I think I've made my peace with those complicated feelings. I love going to New York to visit.
I was gonna ask. There is like a lyric in you're gonna be like, this dude does not do his fucking research, and it's true. But there is a lyric that you have in a tune about like playing at a tourist trap or something like that. Is that New York related?
Tourist Trap is a Boston DIY venue.
Oh,
and,
word. Okay.
A lot of people, a lot of tourist trap folks end up in New York at one point or another.
I assumed for some reason there was something in that tune that made me like think that there were lyrics about New York in it, but I could be wrong. Have you written lyrics about New York in the past?
Yeah, that song is particularly about that pipeline that exists between going from Allston to Bushwick,
and then back, perhaps. I don't know.
And then back, perhaps. Yeah, you never know. I know some folks who have gone and wasn't for them and came back, and and
New York is really weird in the sense that like there's so much music always happening, and a lot of these scenes will be happening right next to each other and never overlap, and it's just strange. Like, and it's just how it is anywhere. It's like there's certain venues that like everyone plays at, but they never make the jump to that other venue or whatever. That's very strange. I don't know, but
totally,
it's for what it's worth, I think Boston's scene is more interesting and more talented. So that's me on record.
Well, on record, that's crazy.
It's on YouTube. It is what it is. If they can dig into like 36 minutes of this and find it, then there it is. Let's listen to a little bit of Joe Modern by Paper Lady. Okay, so these last two tracks, they started taking a bit of a turn. They're a bit more, I guess, acousticy or folky. I don't know. But here, the next one is Good Part by Sweet Petunia. So tell me a bit about this one. And also the move to this, like, new, different sound at the end of the mixtape here.
I will be quite honest, and I was just looking for pals, and I was like, I want to include these people, and I just, I thought about my order a little bit after I sent it in. I was like, maybe I could have moved things around. But Sweet Petunia, an amazing country duo. Maddie Simpson, who's also in Winkler, and Murray Guy, two absolute sweethearts and very good friends of mine. But they're coming out with a record in the spring that I think is just beautiful, and met them through playing Boston music. We actually ended up on a lot of bills together the first year or two that we played in Boston, and had some pretty interesting experiences just kind of on some random bills. But we've become close over the years. But they've got this record coming out in the spring that's just going to be like awesome, and I just am excited to share parts of it.
Well, it's interesting to me because I know you use like pedal steel stuff a decent amount, I think, and they're, I guess, a country act. Do you guys share a pedal steel player or anything, or how does that work?
Not yet, but Mairead will actually jump in for some different iterations of Tiberius. Who've done the Country Berius lineup, which I guess is just our bass player KP switches to upright bass, and we kind of do it more stripped back, and Mairead plays the banjo, and kind of go from less loud and raucous to more intimate, I suppose.
You got to do like a double show one night where the first set of the night is the Country Berius, then the intermission, and then the late night is like the more rockin' thing.
So Bob Dylan.
Is that did Bob Dylan do that? Fucking hell.
I think I have a CD somewhere of Dylan with like first ones like the country or the folky stuff, and then they go electric in the end and everyone gets mad or whatever.
It's all been done. You think you have an original idea, and then Bob Dylan did it. Well, I'm excited for the Tiberius Christian music arc. I feel like, isn't that something Bob Dylan did too in the 80s? I think he did. Yeah.
I think he did do something like that. Yeah. We could maybe skip that chapter.
Yeah, let's skip it. Let's listen to a little bit of Good Part by Sweet Petunia. And then finally, the closing track is by Jane Don't. The song is called Pass the Light. So tell me a bit about Jane Don't.
Jane Don't, speaking of pedal steel players, that is Pat King, our pedal steel player. Very good friend of mine.
Shout out, Pat.
Shout out, Pat. But Jane Don't is kind of Pat's supergroup of a bunch of different musicians. And I think probably most of the musicians, I think most of the bands that I have at least one member that have at some time played in Jane Don't. But Jane Don't, and I've also played in Jane Don't as well. Although I did not play on this song.
What did you play in Jane Don't? Like guitar, I'm assuming.
I played bass a little bit, and then I played guitar, and I played clarinet in Jane Don't as well before.
Wow, I didn't know you played clarinet. That's awesome.
That was my first instrument, 4th grade.
Oh, damn. Do you have a clarinet?
I do. Yeah, I try to sneak it on Tiberius tunes when I can.
I was going to say, I might have to hit you up. I had someone play oboe, I think, on something, or clarinet and something way back, like years ago. But it's always nice to know people who can play those other instruments, not guitars and basses and drums and shit, you know?
Reach out anytime.
Of course. So wait, so you were playing a little bit of bass, a little bit of guitar, but mostly clarinet for Jane Don't. Is that what you're getting at?
I guess like different eras. I had different. Jane Don't is kind of it's been in the past. It's been this sort of amalgamation of different people coming together. So at some point, like the Jane Don't live band would be like 12 people of different like guitar, bass, clarinet. There was a couple like corn players, and
you guys were really approaching like the polyphonic spree numbers of people on stage.
It was a lot of folks.
That must be a fun night too, to have like just everyone show up, and that's like a party. You know, you're up there playing. It sounds awesome.
It was kind of like the Jane Don't party band, and we don't do it as much anymore. We actually do have. There is going to be a Jane Don't show in the new year, which will be exciting, but. It's just a fun. Pat's a really amazing songwriter and instrumentalist, and I think the Jane Don't party band is an era of Pat, but I think Pat has so much stuff, and I'm curious to see what they do with more of their recorded material in the future. But this was kind of like one of the kind of more focused versions of this tune.
Awesome. Well, let's listen to a little bit of it. Here is Pass the Light by Jane Don't.
Songs for our friends. Won't you pass the light again?
And there you go. That's it. That's your little 6-track Allston mixtape. Any honorable mentions or anything that you accidentally left off? Anything you want to say before we go to the break?
There's so many. I was thinking I wish I put a Kinship song on here. Kinship was another one of my past roommates. Steve Kurth, just awesome musician, and came out with one of my favorite records called Today and Tomorrow Night. And then there's literally like I don't even know if I want to start because there's so many.
Yeah, because then you're going to be like, oh shit, I left them out. And we're going to have to do a whole separate episode of honorable mentions for your honorable mentions.
I know.
I'll leave us with
exactly.
Pale Hound. That's a throwback, but I loved Pale Hound. I think they were an Allston thing. I think something.
Yeah,
like that.
I think they were Boston. I remember Pale Hound came to Skidmore when I was there, and they rocked. They were really good.
Yeah, they're incredible. All right, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we've got a little game, and then we will get the hell out of here. All right, for today's game, we're doing a little thing called the Showdown. Yes, it is what you think it is, and the name is the word show. We're going to be talking about different shows, Brendan, that you have played. In our newsletter, we have a newsletter. In our newsletter, you wrote a segment for us some months ago where you filled out some questions. It's called Firsts and Last. And in it, you talked about the first show you ever played. So it's a great way to start the showdown. The first show you ever played, I know, is Noah Tannen's bar mitzvah. So let's talk a little bit about that. Tell me about that. Was that a huge moment for you?
Yeah, that was our high school band, Breaking Vinyl, and Noah at the time was the bass player of the band, and he ended up being our drummer. It was Noah, Noah's sister Jordan, and me. We were like this kind of three-piece, and we trade instruments, and it was great. I love my friends so much. But it was Noah's bar mitzvah. First gig, we played, I think, like a 2.5 song set because the drummer who we had at the time, he was the only drummer for like that gig. I think he like took a cue wrong, and we were supposed to do a cover of Creep by Radiohead, and he cut it off after like the first verse.
Oh wow. Was he maybe he missed the cue, maybe he wasn't feeling it. You never know.
Yeah, I don't know. But I remember we also did Going to Passalaqua by Green Day, and there's actually I was texting Noah a few months ago being like, what was the third song we did? And I don't think either of us remembered what it was, but I do remember we played, and I was 14. I think it was like my first week of high school, and I just felt like, oh, we botched it, like we suck. And then like we were fine. We were just kids, you know. And
yeah. Did anyone talk to you after it and be like, "Wow, that was so sick! Like, what a great set"?
Yeah, everyone was so positive about it.
Were there a lot of parents coming up being like, "That was really good"?
There was, I think there were some, definitely, I think my parents were there that were like, you know, that was good. But I remember I think, you know, it was really that I had the girl that I really liked was also there, and I felt like, oh, I screwed it up. It's like that kind of thing. But it was very classic high school. I guess maybe not super classic high school. It was at the Jewish Center in downtown Rutland, but it was a cool first gig, I'd say.
Yeah, I think it's very cool. Let's move on to the most unique show you've played. And you can define unique however you want, whether that was a unique venue, unique circumstance, but let's leave that up to you. Most unique show you've played.
I think KP, my bassist, and I have played a lot of shows together. And we've talked about how the band has kind of brought us into some different places. But one show that stands out to me right now is that it was 2022, I think, and we did mostly DIY gigs for the first 2 years of us playing anyway, but we were going to play at this house venue in Brighton, or maybe it was Allston, don't remember, same thing. And they stopped doing shows, so they moved this bill to a place in Jamaica Plain that doesn't usually do houses or doesn't usually do shows. And it was someone's it was like a parking lot that it was like the parking lot behind someone's house. And we got there and found out that basically there was this band that lived at the house, and it invited themselves to be on the bill when we got there. So it became a 5-band bill. And we got there.
Surprise support is what we call it.
Surprise support. And the band we started the night getting there because the band was the house band was doing a sound check on their porch, and they played their whole set before like the show started. So everyone was just there listening, and then they had the show. Sweet Petunia was actually on this bill as well. And this first band was like an emo band too. But I just remember being like, this is so, and there wasn't like a lot of people there either. I was like, this is so weird. And there was a dead skunk in the parking lot that was like collecting flies, just like in the middle. And it was, we were there and we were playing, or we were watching the show. And then like, I think that we, like during one of the band set, someone had a motorcycle parked like basically like on the stage, and they had to stop the show because they had to move the motorcycle away. They had to leave or something. And then we played, and I think we were like, it was fine. It was like fine. Like our guitarist could make it at the time, so we played as a 3-piece. And I remember like KP, our bassist, was in like he was upset about something too. So he was like, the vibe dropped between us, and I was just like, this is just a weird day. Like, this is a weird show.
Yeah, you're like just in the middle of a song, and you can zone out for a second, and you just look over to your left, and that skunk is just there.
Yeah,
like,
the skunk is just
what
there.
are we doing? What am I doing? That is maybe a good segue into this next one. And don't worry, we're not going to end on a sour note, but I do want to hear about this worst show you've played. And again, you can define that how you will. If that's a worst show because of your own performance, or is it a worst show because of some circumstances that happened, whatever, worst show you've played.
Yeah. Maybe I should have saved that one for the worst show. Yeah.
I mean, hey, if you want to double down on that one, you can. But were there anything that comes to mind maybe as like a particularly horrible experience where like you guys did, I don't know, you were told you're playing and you show up and you're not on the bill or something? I don't know. I
think I do know the worst show we played. And I feel bad. The people were very nice. But it was the first, we had a Tiberius tour. It was the first one we ever tried to do. It was actually a few weeks before the skunk show. And tried to do trying to book a tour. I'm still really getting we're still kind of getting used to getting our foot in Boston. So it was our first time taking a trip on the road. And so I was kind of just booking whatever we could get. And we booked this show in Philly, and it was like a temple. It was a show near Temple, and it was someone's basement, and it was a 5-band bill, and they put us dead last on the bill, and which is, I think that I feel like common courtesy in DIY is you got the local band, touring bands, local band, you kind of have that local sandwich, and they put us at the end, and I didn't. I honestly didn't mind going last, but it was that the other band that played before us had a 45-minute setup, and they were basically just goofing off, and they played. It was a 3-piece, and one person was playing the riff from Sunshine of Your Love and a key, and then the other person was playing the same riff just a half step down.
Hey, just jumping in from post-production real quick. For those of you who don't know what this means, here is that riff. And now here is that riff half a step down. And just imagine these two played at the same time. Actually, don't even imagine it. Here it is. Here is them played at the same time. And now picture hearing that over and over and over again while you're waiting to go on. Yeah. Now back to Brendan's story.
And they're just doing that over and over again. And it was just so they were like, I was outside in the backyard, and you could hear how like loud it was. It was like piercingly loud. Just them like doing that to warm up, and no, I don't want to throw shade at anybody. I just was not. I wasn't in the mood for a gag at the time.
I think that's okay if you're going last. That's fine. But like,
Yeah.
when you do that and someone's after you, not only are you dragging the night out, but also people don't want to hear this dissonance. They're gonna walk out. They're gonna leave. Next thing you know, you're playing to nobody.
Yeah. And so we like got on stage to play, and I remember. And I also don't know. The other thing is, like, I will say that other band we played with, they might have thought they were the last band. Like, there wasn't good communication about it. Like, it wasn't well thought out. It was just kind of a shit show.
It was a DIY basement show. Well, it is what it is.
Yeah. And so I think that was the one show I remember I played ever where I felt like pissed. Like, I was mad when we played, and I don't like playing mad. That's not the kind of environment that I like to curate. But I remember I was like we played a 4-song set, and I was like, fuck this shit. And I was just like so I could not. I was just angry about it. But I remember that was actually like that was another show. Paper Lady played that show. We had this weird intersection on our like our tours, like we were individually doing, when we both played that show. And I think that was like some of the first times I'd played for Paper Lady, and I'd met my good friend Harley, who does this production crew in Boston called Digital Awareness. And it was like kind of like some like first meetups time, so it wasn't like all bad, and we got to hang out that night. So that part was good, but it was like that set, I was like, that didn't feel good. So that was probably the worst show.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that there was a little bit of silver lining in it, at least. Let's close it out with this last one. Most impactful show that you've played. Once again, I'll let you define that how you will, whatever impactful means to you.
Maybe we just did, with our record, we had a series of release shows, but we played one in Boston, and I think I felt really like embarrassed or timid, because it was kind of like, I felt like everybody who had ever supported us over the last 4 years in Boston ended up coming. And it was just this room full of people that were all just there to support what we'd been doing. And they were all so kind and nice. And there were so many people coming up and being like, I'm so proud of you, and I'm so happy to be here. And it was really a time where I felt like, wow, I feel really at home in Boston, and I feel really like everyone was so incredibly kind, and it really meant the world that they were just coming out to support. And it was a really nice time. But like, I was like, on stage, I was feeling a little self-conscious, because I felt like it was like kind of felt a little similar to like playing at the bar mitzvah a little bit, like all these people I love are here, and I'm getting shy now. So.
Yeah, it kind of is the hardest thing to play to a bunch of people that, that there's a connection with, because when you don't know anyone there, it's a one-to-one. It's like you and a crowd. Where it's a lot of individuals, it's you and all these individuals, right? I think that's cool, though. I think that's a great way to end it, because I think in that essay that you wrote for Atwood, you talked about like being on like a year-to-year contract or something with Boston, just because it's, I guess leases renew every year, right? You'd mentioned, but also it's, you never know, right, what the next steps are. And that must have been really nice to make it feel like home, so that's very cool.
Totally. Yeah, I think every September 1st is a weird turnover, but it definitely feels like home.
That's amazing. All right, let's hear from you. The people can hear from you where they can listen to Troubadour, where they can find more info on Tiberius and any tour dates, anything like that. Go ahead and plug away.
Sure. Yeah, we have a website called TiberiusIsKindOfABand.com. I tend to post on Instagram a lot, which is a choice on my part, but I am at Tiberius Wright. I think if you go to the Audio Antihero website, you can find Tiberius. And then we exist on the streaming platforms. Although we definitely have some pretty complicated, or I have some very complicated feelings about Spotify and not very positive ones, and I think that we're going to try to not have much of a presence on there as much. So if you do have a Spotify, we might not have as much on there at the time that this is being broadcast or by the time this is being watched or whatever. So yeah, but we're everywhere else. So there's a couple of different Tiberiuses in the world, but we're the one that looks like this person here, and it's kind of like emo-y and a little bit of country stuff in there at times. And
Yeah, what'd you call it? Farm
emo is what
Farm emo. That was it.
Is what the press release says.
Yeah, the ever so powerful, the almighty press release.
Yeah.
Look, we're going to put links to the Bandcamp. We're going to put links to the website. So, if you really want to support, Bandcamp is the place to do it. And listeners, viewers, if you really want to support the Tape Club, tapeclub.substack.com is a place to go. If you sign up, you can obviously get this podcast. You'll get the newsletters, whatever. That's for free. If you want to sign up for the paid one, we have these cassettes that we send out every so often, every 3 months or so. You'll get a cassette with, it's like a little compilation. This is the one that went out in December, and you can see, actually, oh, look at this. There's a Tiberius song on here. Oh, dang.
Yeah. I was going to thank you for that. Thank you
there
very
it
much
is.
for having us on
Sag.
there.
I don't know if I'm even holding it in the camera right here, but there it is.
I see it.
Tiberius Sag. So, and by the way, this, I should have, this is just going to go in the show, whatever, but I will be sending you a couple copies of this next week.
Awesome.
Send them to, I think I'm either sending them to you or I'm sending them to Jamie, who's sending them to you. I'm not sure, whatever. But listeners, viewers, tapeclub.substack.com, that's where you can go to sign up. Brendan, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate you taking some time, and I hope that your 2026 is ever rewarding.
Absolutely. It was such a fun time and honor and pleasure, and appreciate you taking the time for me too.
Hell yeah. Listeners and viewers, thank you for listening and viewing, and I will catch you next time. See ya. The J-Card podcast is a fully independent production. It is made possible by listeners and viewers just like you. So if you want to support us, tapeclub.substack.com is the place to go.